Partisans are actively operating in Russia, damaging relay cabinets on important railway lines. Similar resistance actions are also taking place in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. The press service of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine reported this. A video was published on the agency's Telegram channel, demonstrating successful operations in various locations behind enemy lines. The number of fires at the aggressor state's railway facilities is constantly growing, intelligence officers noted, calling guerrilla operations the flames of resistance. In recent months, fires and other incidents have been recorded in the Bryansk, Rostov, and Murmansk regions, as well as in Chechnya and Karachay-Cherkessia. The invaders' logistics were subjected to guerrilla attacks in the Ukrainian frontier areas, in Crimea and Luhansk region. Coordinated partisan attacks undermine the enemy's ability to move equipment and reinforcements, complicate logistics, and weaken its offensive potential. The main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense explained the value of such operations. Resistance to the criminal war against Ukraine within the aggressor state is growing, the press service added. A wave of sabotage against telecommunications infrastructure continues in the terrorist country of Russia and in Ukraine's military-industrial zone. Guerrillas are systematically destroying cell phone towers and equipment belonging to local operators. In recent months, new fires have been recorded in the Republic of Adygea, Rostov Oblast, Kamchatka Krai, and the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, according to the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. The agency notes that its response continues systematically. Agents of the Ukrainian and Crimean Tatar military movement, Atesh, continue their sabotage operations behind enemy lines. In the temporarily occupied town of Tokmak in the Zaporizhia region, they attacked a railway used by the Russians for logistics. Following the successful sabotage, the Russians encountered difficulties transporting personnel, equipment, and ammunition to the Zaporizhia area. A similar situation occurred near the temporarily occupied city of Berdyansk. An explosion on the tracks derailed a locomotive, 10 train cars, and a cover platform. As OBOZ.UA reported, agents of the Ukrainian and Crimean Tatar military movement, Atesh, staged another act of sabotage in the aggressor country's Bryansk region. As a result of the successful operation, the enemy's command and control system at a key communications hub was paralyzed. It was also reported that a Kiev region court sentenced an agent of the Russian Federation, an aggressor state, who was exposed by the security service of Ukraine. The perpetrator had committed acts of sabotage at Ukrzaliznytsia facilities and was planning a terrorist attack on the TCC.
As reported, oil depots in annexed Crimea were attacked, causing massive fires. These facilities are used to supply fuel to the Russian army. Crim.Reli investigated what happened and what the consequences will be. In annexed Crimea, explosions were heard in the early morning, after which 2 powerful fires broke out in Simferopol and the Simferopol region. The Telegram channel Krymsky Vita, citing information from subscribers, reported that a powerful explosion occurred in the village of Vadeskoy, followed by a fire at the local Atan oil depot. A little later, news broke of a massive fire in Simferopol. The location of the fire was initially determined to be at a thermal power plant in the Gresovsky microdistrict, but it turned out to be at a nearby oil depot. Krymsky Vita reported that numerous military fuel tankers covered in camouflage nets and equipped with anti-drone structures were at the oil depot. This oil depot is actively used to supply the Russian army, the Telegram channel claims. The fire at an oil depot in Simferopol was confirmed by the Russian head of Crimea, Sergei Asganov. As a result of an attack by an enemy drone in Simferopol, a tank containing fuel and lubricants was hit. This caused a fire. There were no injuries. Emergency services are working on the scene, Asganov wrote on his Telegram channel. The oil depot in the village of Vardeskoy in the Simferopol district was attacked earlier in October on the 17th. The attack also occurred early in the morning. 2 powerful explosions were heard in Simferopol and the Simferopol district. The oil depot in Vardeskoy is perhaps the northernmost in Crimea, used to supply fuel to the Russian forces in the occupied territories of Ukraine. The Ukrainian armed forces are deliberately targeting this facility. As a result, the fuel supply route will be extended and consequently the fuel delivery time to Russian troops. A Crimean military expert, a former Ukrainian officer, and a lieutenant colonel in the Ukrainian Armed Forces Reserve told Krim.Reli on condition of anonymity. The oil depot in the Simferopol village of Komsomolskoy, located at 6A Montaznaya Street, has 2 large fuel storage tanks and 4 smaller ones. The facility has access to railway lines and a ramp with oil pipelines. TESS and Atan own the largest gas station networks on the peninsula, and TESS also operates in the occupied territories of Kherson and Zaporizhia. Both companies operate fleets of fuel trucks and oil depots and supply fuel to the Russian army. Therefore, they are legitimate targets for the Ukrainian armed forces, and Russian troops will be on a starvation ration, commented a military expert from Crimea. In October, the Ukrainian Defense Forces attacked 3 oil depots in Crimea, 2 of them twice. In this case, Russian equipment cannot move due to lack of fuel. The largest marine oil terminal in Crimea is located in Feodosia. It was attacked on the night of October the 6th, sparking a massive fire that burned for several days. Some of the storage tanks were destroyed in the fire. Ukrainian forces are systematically targeting facilities in Crimea that supply fuel to the Russian army. Currently, the only major oil depot left on the peninsula is the Russian Black Sea Fleet's depot in Sevastopol, but it's virtually invulnerable as the fuel is stored in underground tanks. These tanks were built during the Soviet era to withstand a nuclear strike. The city also has another major oil depot, Yuktosan, in Kazachia Bay, but it's unknown whether it's in use. In any case, delivering fuel to Russian troops from Sevastopol increases the length of the route and travel time. Petroleum products will be delivered on the fly, so to speak, and this deprives the Russian army of maneuverability and the ability to plan operations over long periods of time, says a former Ukrainian officer from Crimea.